The courtroom was buzzing with tension that afternoon. It was one of those cases that made you realize how quickly family relationships can unravel over money and misunderstandings. Sarah Mitchell sat nervously on one side of the room, her hands clasped tightly together. Across from her sat her daughter, Emma, looking equally uncomfortable but determined. This wasn't just another small claims case. This was a mother and daughter fighting over a car, and the story behind it was more complicated than anyone could have imagined. Judge Patricia Romano entered the courtroom with her usual commanding presence. She had been presiding over small claims cases for 15 years, and she had seen it all. Neighbors fighting over fences, business partners dissolving partnerships, and yes, plenty of family disputes. But something about this case caught her attention immediately. The tension between the two women was palpable, and she could sense there was more to this story than what appeared on paper. "Ms. Mitchell," the judge began, addressing the younger woman, "you're suing your mother for $5,000. You claim she gave you a car and then took it back without your permission. Is that correct?" Emma nodded, her voice steady despite the obvious emotion in her eyes. "Yes, Your Honor. That's exactly what happened." The judge turned to Sarah. "And Mrs. Mitchell, you're the defendant here. What's your version of events?" Sarah took a deep breath before responding. "Your Honor, I never gave my daughter that car. I let her use it, yes, but it was always my car. I bought it with my own money." This was going to be interesting, Judge Romano thought to herself. She leaned back in her chair and said, "All right, let's start from the beginning. Ms. Mitchell, tell me how this all started." Emma cleared her throat and began her story. "Your Honor, about 2 years ago, I was 18 and had just started college. I was studying nursing, which meant long hours at school and clinical rotations at the hospital. My mom had an older sedan, a 2015 Honda Accord. She wasn't using it much because she had gotten a newer car from her work. She told me I could drive the Honda to get to school and my clinical rotations." The judge interrupted. "Did she give you the title to this car?" Emma shook her head. "Not at first, no. The car was still in her name. But I was the only one driving it. I paid for gas, I paid for oil changes, I even paid for new tires when the old ones wore out. For all intents and purposes, it was my car." Judge Romano made a note on her pad. "Continue." "Well," Emma said, "about 6 months after I started using the car, I was driving home from a late shift at the hospital. It was raining heavily, and visibility was terrible. I was stopped at a red light when another car slammed into me from behind. The impact pushed my car into the intersection, and another vehicle hit me from the side. It was terrifying, Your Honor. I was hurt. Nothing too serious, thank God, just some whiplash and bruising, but the car was totaled." Sarah shifted uncomfortably in her seat, and the judge noticed. "Mrs. Mitchell, is this account accurate so far?" Sarah nodded reluctantly. "Yes, Your Honor. The accident wasn't her fault. The other driver was texting and didn't see the red light." "Go on," Judge Romano said to Emma. "After the accident, my mom came to the hospital. She was worried about me, which I appreciated. But then we started talking about the car. The insurance company determined it was a total loss and issued a check for $2,400. That's when things got complicated." Emma cleared her throat and began her story. "Your Honor, about 2 years ago, I was 18 and had just started college. I was studying nursing, which meant long hours at school and clinical rotations at the hospital. My mom had an older sedan, a 2015 Honda Accord. She wasn't using it much because she had gotten a newer car from her work. She told me I could drive the Honda to get to school and my clinical rotations." The judge interrupted. "Did she give you the title to this car?" Emma shook her head. "Not at first, no. The car was still in her name. But I was the only one driving it. I paid for gas, I paid for oil changes, I even paid for new tires when the old ones wore out. For all intents and purposes, it was my car." Judge Romano made a note on her pad. "Continue." "Well," Emma said, "about 6 months after I started using the car, I was driving home from a late shift at the hospital. It was raining heavily, and visibility was terrible. I was stopped at a red light when another car slammed into me from behind. The impact pushed my car into the intersection, and another vehicle hit me from the side. It was terrifying, Your Honor. I was hurt. Nothing too serious, thank God, just some whiplash and bruising, but the car was totaled. Sarah shifted uncomfortably in her seat, and the judge noticed. Mrs. Mitchell, is this account accurate so far? Sarah nodded reluctantly. Yes, Your Honor. The accident wasn't her fault. The other driver was texting and didn't see the red light. Go on, Judge Romano said to Emma. After the accident, my mom came to the hospital. She was worried about me, which I appreciated. But then we started talking about the car. The insurance company determined it was a total loss and issued a check for $2,400. That's when things got complicated. Emma paused, gathering her thoughts. My mom said that since I was the one driving the car and since I had been using it exclusively, she would sign the title over to me so the insurance check would come in my name. She said it would be easier that way for tax purposes and insurance purposes. I didn't really understand all the details. I was young and dealing with the aftermath of a scary accident, but I trusted her. Judge Romano leaned forward. So she signed the title over to you on the day of the accident? Emma nodded. Yes, Your Honor. We went to the DMV a few days later, and she officially transferred ownership to me. The insurance check came in my name, and I deposited it into my account. And what happened to that money? The judge asked. This is where the story took an interesting turn. Emma looked down at her hands. My mom asked if she could use the insurance money to buy another car for me. She said she knew someone who was selling a reliable car for exactly the amount of the insurance payout. She said it would be perfect for me to continue getting to school and work. I thought it was generous of her, so I agreed. I gave her the money, and she bought a 2012 Toyota Camry. Sarah interjected, her voice rising slightly. Your Honor, if I may. The judge held up her hand. You'll get your chance to speak, Mrs. Mitchell. Let your daughter finish. Emma continued. My mom bought the Camry, but here's the thing. She put the title in her name, not mine. When I asked her about it, she said it was because I was still young and insurance would be cheaper if the car was in her name. She promised me it was still my car, that I could drive it as much as I needed, and that eventually, she would transfer the title to me once I graduated from nursing school. And did you accept that explanation? Judge Romano asked. I did. Emma admitted. I know it sounds naive now, but she's my mother. I trusted her. And for about a year and a half, everything was fine. I drove the Camry every day. I paid for all the maintenance, all the gas, even a new set of brakes when they wore out. I treated it like my car because I believed it was my car. The judge made another note. So what changed? Emma's expression hardened. About 3 months ago, I moved in with my boyfriend. My mom didn't approve of him, and we had a big fight about it. She said I was making a mistake, that I was too young to be living with someone, that I should focus on finishing school. I told her it was my life and my decision. Things got heated, and we didn't speak for a few weeks. During that time, Emma continued, my mom's mother, my grandmother, had a health scare and ended up in the hospital about 2 hours away. My mom called me and we talked for the first time since our fight. She asked if she could borrow the car to go visit my grandmother. I wanted to help, but I explained that I needed the car for work. I was doing 12-hour shifts at the hospital, and I couldn't be without transportation. I offered to drive her to see my grandmother on my day off, but she got angry and said I was being selfish. Judge Romano could see where this was heading. And then, the next day, I came out of my apartment to go to work, and the car was gone. I called my mom, and she told me she had taken it back. She said it was her car, her name was on the title, and she had every right to take it. I was shocked, Your Honor. I had put thousands of dollars into that car. I had been driving it for a year and a half. I had insurance on it in my name, and she just took it without any warning. The courtroom was silent for a moment. Judge Romano turned to Sarah. Mrs. Mitchell, now it's your turn. What do you have to say about all of this? Sarah stood up, her posture defensive. Your Honor, I understand how my daughter sees this situation, but she's leaving out important details. Yes, I transferred the first car into her name after the accident, but only for insurance purposes. That car was mine. I had bought it with my own money years before. The fact that she was driving it didn't make it hers. When the insurance money came, Sarah continued, I used it to buy the Camry, but I bought it with my money, in my name as my property. I let Emma use it because she needed a car for school, and I wanted to help her. But it was always understood between us that the car belonged to me. Emma shook her head vigorously. That's not true, Mom. You told me it was my car. You said you bought it for me. Sarah's voice grew louder. I said I bought it for you to use, not for you to own. There's a difference, Emma. And when you moved in with that boy against my wishes, when you refused to let me use my own car to see my dying mother in the hospital, I realized I had made a mistake being so generous with you. Judge Romano held up both hands. All right, both of you calm down. Let's look at the facts here. Mrs. Mitchell, you transferred the title of the first car to your daughter. Correct. Yes, Sarah admitted. And the insurance check for that totaled car came in your daughter's name. Correct? Yes, but... And your daughter gave you that money, which you used to purchase the second car, the Camry, correct? Yes, Your Honor. But the Camry was purchased in my name with my credit and... The judge cut her off. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm going to stop you right there. Here's what I see. You transferred ownership of the first vehicle to your daughter. Whether that was for insurance purposes or not is irrelevant. You made a legal transfer of ownership. The insurance payout for that vehicle rightfully belonged to your daughter because she was the legal owner at the time of the total loss. When she gave you that money to purchase a replacement vehicle, there was an implied agreement that the replacement vehicle would also belong to her. Sarah tried to interject, but Judge Romano continued. The fact that you put the second car in your name for insurance purposes doesn't negate the fact that your daughter's money paid for it. In the eyes of the law, that makes it her property, regardless of whose name is on the title. You can't take money from someone to buy them a car and then claim the car is yours just because your name happens to be on the paperwork. Emma's face showed relief, but the judge wasn't finished. However, Ms. Mitchell, you also bear some responsibility here. You should have insisted that the title be put in your name from the beginning. You should have gotten a written agreement about ownership. You're an adult, and you need to protect yourself in these situations, even when dealing with family. The judge looked at both women. This case illustrates why family members should always put financial agreements in writing, even when it seems unnecessary or uncomfortable. Love and trust are wonderful, but they don't hold up in court. Documents do. Finally, Judge Romano delivered her verdict. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm ordering you to return the vehicle to your daughter immediately and to sign over the title to her within 7 days. Additionally, you will pay your daughter $1,000 for the inconvenience and costs she has incurred due to being without her vehicle for 3 months. This includes the cost of alternative transportation and the emotional distress of this situation. Sarah looked devastated, but she nodded. Emma looked relieved but also sad. As the two women left the courtroom, neither spoke to the other. Judge Romano watched them go inside. In her 15 years on the bench, she had learned that the saddest cases weren't always the ones with the biggest dollar amounts. They were the ones where relationships were damaged, sometimes beyond repair, over things that could have been easily prevented with clear communication and proper documentation. This case would stay with her, as many did, as a reminder that justice sometimes comes at a cost that money can't measure. Moral of the story: always document financial agreements, even with family. Clear communication and written contracts can prevent painful legal battles and preserve precious relationships.